As a Laker fan, I will never forget that day. That day, Chris, you know you were supposed to be a Laker. You know I'm gonna still say that as my diehard Lakerness is. I know you're over that. It's been over a decade. I'm still talking about it.
Crazy. I think I talk about it a little bit in the book too, for real, because that was a crazy day. That was a crazy day. Obviously, you know, I think I said it before about how me and Kobe got on the phone. Yeah, that wild tweet. And it's funny, I don't know if I discuss it in the book, but that wild tweet wasn't just the fact that the trade got nixed. It was more so also about the fact that what was going to happen with my contract because the new CBA had just ended, right? So that was a crazy day. Crazy to think that that was 12 years ago.
It feels like yesterday. I could tweet that right now, and every Laker Nation would be like, do you remember where you were? That's like on this day in Laker history. But with that being said, everything worked out. You clearly have established yourself as one of the best, and so you're good at that. I've said this before. I've always said that you are a legendary floor general. And now that you're entering your 19th season, I still believe. I still believe that you are getting your ring because you are that great. What motivates you as you enter your 19th year to stay playing?
I think what motivates me is just the will to want to get better. I always want to be better. And the gratitude that I have for being able to play the game as long as I played it. And I'd be lying if I say situations like yesterday don't motivate you. You know, it's got to motivate you. And it's just cool because life, it happens. You know, people don't feel sorry for you as they shouldn't, but just motivation. You know, you just always want to get better.
And I see that in you, and I feel that in you. You were on the shop talking about being an OG in the game, and you're referring to, like, I guess you, LeBron, and I forget who else you mentioned, and you talked about how sometimes some of these teammates are near little Chris's age, your son's age, and you were like, it's wow, it's a moment for you, and you were very generous when you talked about Ja Morant in terms of how he went to your camp and your words for him. What would you say to Ja, if you haven't already said this to him? What advice would you give him? Because you've been able to be above the fray the entire time you've been in the league in terms of how you handle your business. What would you say to him in a reachable, teachable moment?
I think the biggest thing that I would say to him, as I tell most guys, is, you know, keep the real ones as close as possible. You know what I mean? And try to block out the outside noise, because in the world of social media and all this stuff, everybody gonna say what you should do or what they think they would have did or whatnot. So just try to keep that tight-knit group close to you, right? And just drown out the noise, because I think Ja will be back stronger and better. And that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, we all are. We all are. There's no badness there. And speaking of drowning out the noise, I think that you clearly had a great foundation growing up. I mean, a little bit that I have read about this memoir, 61, Life Lessons from Papa on and off the court. It is about your grandfather. And can you give everyone at home just a synopsis of what they can expect?
Yeah, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version. So November 14th, 2002, I signed my letter of intent to go to Wake Forest University. That night, me and my grandfather went to go see Wake Forest play an exhibition game. The very next day, November 15th, he was murdered by 5 teenagers. My granddad had the first Black-owned service station in North Carolina. He was my best friend because I lost my grandmother to lung cancer when I was 7. And that was devastating for me because it just came out of nowhere. November 19th was his funeral. November 20th was the first game of my senior season, and I scored 61 points in that game for every year that my grandfather had been alive. And, you know, 20 years later, I wanted to tell the story of why I am the way that I am, the way that I work, the way that I fight for trying to provide for my family in so many different ways. And it was just about, you know, my relationship with my grandfather. And I think that other people can relate and understanding that even though when you lose someone, even though you lose them maybe in the flesh, they're still with you in other ways.
Yeah. Yes, obviously. It's about family, faith, tragedy, lessons learned. What did your grandfather tell you that you remember to this day? What were some of his sayings or his keys to life, if you will, that you impart now on your family and on your teammates?
Yeah, you know what's funny is, you remember the old VHS tapes?
Yep.
Right? My family used to record everything. And my dad actually had a few of those tapes put on DVDs, and he sent them out to me a couple months ago. And I watched them. And actually, one of them was a video from my granddad's 60th birthday. And so I got a chance to see him and see him talking. And I never realized that my wife had never heard his voice, my mom and everybody. And at the end of my grandfather's speech, what he said was his favorite quote, his favorite Bible verse. He said, "I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me." And it just gave me goosebumps because I used to write that on a piece of paper and put it in my sock before every game. So that was one of the things my grandfather used to always say.
I know that you work with one of my colleagues in editing the book, and Mike Wilbon. How was that? He's a true OG. How was that experience?
It was super dope, and Mike was amazing. Like, I remember during the pandemic, doing Zooms with him, and I'm so grateful to him for his expertise and just helping figure out the outline of the book, because you don't know what you don't know. I didn't play a lot of basketball, but I had never written a book, and I have an unbelievable appreciation for the process of it. And big shout out to Mike for that.
Okay, so it's interesting because Mike Wilbon, everyone goes to him. He is the GOAT, if you will. I remember him saying Charles Barkley, he wrote Barkley's book, and that helped him buy a house. And I hope that your book helped him buy another house, all the things that he needs.
He's good. He is good on his house.
But with that being said, as you write this book, I think it requires you to have a lot more perspective and how you view your life and obviously your grandfather and what he meant to you. And you told the story about that VHS tape and listening to him. But what did you learn? What was your biggest takeaway?
Man, you know, it's interesting because deciding to write this now and not even 5 years ago, it just gave me a very interesting perspective because I have kids of my own. I have a 14-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter. And so in this book, even though I talk about my relationship with my grandfather, I feel like it's very relatable because some people may have that relationship with a friend, with a mentor, whoever it may be. And what it did is it made me understand how valuable my parents' relationship is with my kids, right? Because my parents are totally different people than the people who raised me when it comes to kids. Right? They are so gracious and so forgiving when it comes to the kids. But it wasn't that way for me and my brother. But it's necessary. And that's what I talk about in the book, it's a different love. It's a different type of understanding that grandparent gives you.
And that's what you got from your grandfather, so you can feel it in real time. And so now I love it. I love the connection. And you can see the distance. That's like my favorite saying, because you can see what it was and you can see how your parents are. And you're like, oh, I get it. Like, you'll be that way with your grandkids. You know what I mean? Isn't it special?
I get it from a distance, but in real life, I get mad at my parents. I remember when my kids, oh, for sure. When my kids were a little younger, little Chris would be outside shooting, right, missing left and right, and my mom would be like, "Good job, baby, good job." And I, "Woman, who are you?" Like you were so hard on me and my brother. But it's funny because those relationships you cherish, like you really cherish it. And I just look at my dad sometimes, the way he watches my son or how he watches my daughter. Like, I will sit back and watch him just soaking it all in, and I really appreciate it, and I know that my kids need that.
Oh, man, that was special. That was very special. You talk about relationships. You and I have been able to work on a few things together when we all vote. I know you have a relationship with the Obamas. That was Michelle Obama's initiative to make sure people are voting, and you were there. It was beautiful to see you there, and you've been very vocal about your not necessarily political interests, but you like to be of service. And I know you still are playing and you still have time to play. But have you looked at a life outside of basketball, perhaps entering in the realm of politics, or what is next for you?
No chance in the world of politics. But I do try to lend my voice or just knowledge of things when I can, right? Because you have this platform, and I'm always trying to become more educated on things and teach others who may not necessarily know. So that was why I was so fortunate to join Michelle Obama's When We All Vote, because the education aspect of finding out how there's so much voter suppression.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that was a big initiative and something that we keep trying to make sure that people are not being held back from the polls and giving everyone an opportunity to vote. So I'm always just trying to learn as much as possible, Cari, and I'm not trying to learn in politics.
Yeah, you're like, no thanks, I'll pass on that. Most recently, you graduated. How long ago was that, Chris, when you got your degree? In December? Congratulations, sir. Congratulations. What made you make that a priority at this time in your life?
Yeah, so I went to Wake Forest University for 2 years and left school early. I tried to go back and get my degree a couple times and just wasn't working out. Just time, kids, all these different things. And so during the pandemic, I enrolled at Winston-Salem State University at HBCU. And man, I was trying to do school. I was trying to help find a new executive director. I was trying to set up the bubble. I never forget, my dad called me one day during the pandemic, and my dad said, "Son, it's okay to stop. Like, chill on school right now. You're doing too much." And I appreciated that because, we always working so hard trying to do this and trying to do that. So I was very happy when I finally did graduate.
Yeah, congrats. That's huge because I don't even know if I could go back to school now. I have ADD, HD, and I just self-diagnosed myself. I couldn't even focus. I'd be like, wait a second, it's too much. But speaking of HBCUs, in that same vein, President Joe Biden appointed you to the Board of Advisors, from my understanding. What does that role entail, and why is that important for you?
The role was important because it's another voice and another platform, but it also gave me an opportunity to learn from people who have been involved in the HBCUs and all this programming for so much longer than I have, right? I grew up around the different HBCUs in North Carolina, and then I enrolled and graduated, but once again, it goes back to learning, being able to give my perspective from a different lens than some of the other people on the board. But there's so much more people who are a lot smarter than me, but I'd just be happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, you're doing a great job. You're checking all the boxes. I wonder, though, Chris, let me ask you this. I wonder, because you talked about finding another executive director, and you say you would never be a politician. I do wonder, with this self-starting mentality that you have, what is next for you? Because you're obviously setting something up, right, in terms of what you already have been able to accomplish. What do you see yourself doing outside of playing ball?
It's funny, Cari, I don't know. That's a really good question. Obviously, I have my production company, all these different businesses and things that's going on, but right now I'm just still so into the game, right?
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people say, if you start thinking about it, what you're gonna do when it's over, then it's basically over. I'm still in it, still love it too much to even have that on my mind, but I'm hoping that when that time does come, I'll be ready, but we'll see.
Well, let's go to the playoffs. The Suns were the only only team that were able to get at least 2 games off the Nuggets. What is it about that particular team this season that had them, outside of Jokic, right? We know what he is, that had them so in sync? What did you notice?
Yeah, they had a connectivity about them. They're well coached. Mike Malone, who coached, he was assistant coach of mine back when I played in New Orleans. Joker's so unselfish. Jamal Murray, their 2-man game. But Bruce Brown was a huge, huge piece of that team. And I think just the way that they played together and the connection that they had and the confidence that they had. You can have your 2 stars or whatnot, but the other guys, I think the confidence in them is what got it done for them.
I also think when you talk about the confidence and the diligence, I see that, and I see that in you, so I get why you're not even thinking about what's next, because you're still in the game. And the rap is, look, you play with Chris, you better know what you're doing. You know what I mean? You play with Chris, you better have your stuff together. We don't have to, you better show up and be ready and be right. Is there any part of you that denies that? Is that who you are in essence?
No, that's exactly who I am in essence, and it's not for everybody. You know, it's not. And, you know, some people might say that's the worst thing about me, and damn, what we gonna do? You know, but it's honestly who I am. And I said this a number of times. I'm never gonna ask a teammate to do something that I wouldn't do myself. But it's what's kept me here for the amount of time that I've been here. So there are always adjustments made here and there or whatnot as far as the team, but I don't sacrifice my work ethic.
And you should not have to. You're speaking to a dog as well. Absolutely. Like, I have to be able to trust you, so do your job. Do you have a player that you, when you were growing up, that you loved, or players that you were growing up that you loved that expressed that?
You know, I was obviously a diehard Michael Jordan fan growing up in North Carolina, but I'm going to tell you what's so crazy, Cari, and the first text message I woke up to yesterday morning on Father's Day was from my GOAT growing up, and that was Allen Iverson. AI, like, I mean, I was number 3, I had braids and all that, and I mean, it's crazy to talk about it, but even when I got hurt in the playoffs, the first text I got was from Allen Iverson, you know, and so the relationship that I have with him over the years or whatnot is something that I don't take for granted. And the way that AI played every night, night in and night out, that's my guy right there.
That's your GOAT right there. I think that's special. And everybody says, and you tell me your thoughts, culturally, what did he do for the game? The way he approached it? Everything.
AI, just the grit that he played with night in and night out. Like, we all started wearing sleeves and started getting tattoos. Everybody started trying to be like Allen Iverson. Like I told you, it's hard to probably tell now, but I had braids for a day until my pops came and made me take them out. But Chuck, his AI has always just been so genuine, and I appreciate him for that.
I posted something about him the other day that I saw. I don't know if you saw it. It was about how he has been able to, Reebok is still paying him, and there'll be this huge payout. I don't know how true that is or not, but I've heard all these things about him. There's these urban legends about AI. If there was one thing you would have wanted for him in his time playing, what would that have been? Would it have been a ring?
Yeah, just for him to win a championship. You know what I mean? Probably, because the social media world and all this stuff goes crazy or whatnot, but I'm grateful for the real relationship that I have with him and knowing him the way that I do. So I don't know, I appreciate him.
Who in the league now that is playing comes to you and you have that relationship with? Is there anyone that's coming up and like, man, can you help me? Or maybe even just a teammate, for that matter.
I don't know if it's one guy. I got a lot of guys that I'm really close with, especially the fact that I got 12 of my AAU kids that play in the NBA now. But
wow.
You know, over the course of your career, it's a lot of, you know, teammates, relationships here and there and whatnot, and you really learn to cherish like the real friendship relationships and stuff. Like Rudy Gay, you know what I mean? Rudy is like a brother to me, man. Russell Westbrook, and
wow.
a number of guys who I've been able to be close with for a long time.
Okay, I love you for saying that.